administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
You're watching OttTvScriptureReality.
A mother who is trying to decide myself whether to get my kids vaccinated when the time comes. And I'm reading this, 51% of parents, only 51% are absolutely certain. I'll be honest, I'm in that 50% that isn't absolutely certain. So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Campbell, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all. But I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz.
Today I want to update you on the next stage of this momentous medical initiative. It's called Operation Warp Speed. That means big and it means fast. A massive scientific, industrial, and logistical endeavor unlike anything our country has seen since the Manhattan Project. You really could say that nobody's seen anything like we're doing, whether it's ventilators or testing. Nobody's seen anything like we're doing now within our country since the Second World War. Incredible.
I think we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. We're doing very well with the vaccine. And I will tell you something. I just literally left a meeting. We're mobilizing our military and other forces, but we're mobilizing our military on the basis that we do have a vaccine. You know, it's a massive job to give this vaccine. Our military is now being mobilized. So at the end of the year, we're going to be able to give it to a lot of people very, very
I don't know that there's something very good going to happen. We have to get back. So think of it, in this horrible period, this horrible, dark period where this monster came and worked its horrible, horrible spell. Worked its horrible, horrible spell over the world. 184 countries as of this morning.
Russell out here, and you're watching OttTvScriptureReality. Yesterday I posted a video called Shedding of Spike Protein and Increase of Heart Disease, and it was reposted on Jim Crenshaw, and I'd like to say thank you, Jim, for doing that. There were some questions in the comment section, so I would like to address those. First off, we're talking about the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. The M stands for Magneto Tranfection. They use magnesium to break the blood-brain barrier. This event is called Super Para Magneto Transfer Nano Lipid Particulates Iron Oxide Luciferin Phosphate. Somebody asked in the comment section if I had any kind of proof about the Gagine being removed. I'm going to show you guys a video from 4/13/2005. It's a DoD presentation to vaccinate Christians to remove their Gagine. This vaccine was made in 2003, and they did trial runs back before 2010 on animals, and they did a 20-person study run, and they found that this process and this vaccine is very deadly. That's why it's being used for the depopulation event. And there's so many aspects to this vaccine, and getting into the whole viral thing, the viruses, after this, I'm gonna post another video. It's from Manyfish, and it's called "It's Time You Know," and he actually goes over the 1890s viral scandal, the Rockefellers' purchase, and how viruses aren't real. I think I was misunderstood in this video. What I was trying to touch down on was that during the Cold War era, they were trying to make viruses so they could control people and depopulate through what they made. And they called it a virus because it's rewriting DNA, like gene therapy. They weren't successful at this, and so they moved on, and they moved on to proteins. Proteins are genius because, for one, any poison that on this planet, the poison aspect, the component in it, is a protein that your body can't accept or handle. Even like when people are allergic to something, they're allergic to the protein. It's genius to use a protein. So when they put their man-made viral components into people, and it can make them shed. And this time they're shedding something really bad. It took them over 12 years to separate the spion from the prion, and once they were able to achieve this, they were able to make these spike proteins. So this is what you're looking at, folks. I mean, it's a depopulation event. In the mouse studies, they only had to give 70% of the mice the vaccine to kill off 95%. That's getting down to the numbers that they're looking for. And it's a shame that it removes your God gene and replaces it with an androgen factory. And if you guys can remember, in the beginning, AstraZeneca pulled their vaccine for a while because they had 2 complaints of people that were Christians that were complaining of not being able to hear God no more. I can't feel God, my soul is dead. And this was the second report at this time. So hopefully this addresses some of the questions that you folks have when it comes to the removal of the God gene. Like I said, this video from 4/13/2005, it's a DOD presentation to vaccinate Christians to remove their God gene. Totally heinous and evil indeed. And also too, with that video yesterday, help I'm stepping in the Twilight Zone, there's meanings that song that some folks might not understand. And I put that song in there because I had the ending with the white rabbit and the child abductions and stuff like that. In that song, he says this place is a madhouse, feels like being cloned. You do some research, that rabbit hole goes deeper, and you can find yourself into the clone facilities or in LA and down on the islands in the tropics. There's a bunch around the world. And when he says my beacon's been moved under the moon and star, he's talking about the elitists and in Hollywood and how they make these contracts and they sell their soul. Whether if you believe that or not, it's happening. And whether if it's real or not, they believe it is and they're doing it. And, and back to the white rabbit thing, in these contracts, they use children's blood to write these contracts. And the contracts state that you stand against the Holy Spirit. So that way you sign the contract, you're committing blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. A lot of people don't understand the 3 parts of the body, that the soul is like your soul is your shoe. The soul is your body. The soul is your temple, and the soul is where your spirit stands. Your spirit is like the operator of your body. And your brain is like the processor so you can interact with the physical. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I've heard people say, well, you can't sell your soul. You can't sell what's yours. Well, this is because they think your soul is your spirit. You can sell your soul. It's like selling your seats. It's like buying seats to the baseball game, and then you sell your seat to someone else. So those folks come possessed by other things and get worshipped on stage. And anyone that doesn't believe me, I have videos on this, and I cover it. You'd have to go back a few videos. But it's sold out at the Crossroads. I got 5 versions of that, all different. And it's testimonies from the people who sold their souls. So for folks that don't believe that, look into that. And like I said, whether if you believe it or not, they do. So, but look forward to my next update. That should be coming out soon. I'll have another update on what's going on in world events, and I'll have another Infruition video coming out, 13.0. Look for that, and here's that video for you.
Excuse me, on the left over here, we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here, we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalist, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach.
What you see here is by spreading this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from donning on a bomb vest and going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. Here we have two brain scans. These are fMRIs. These are two different individuals with different levels of expression of VMAT2. On top is an individual who's a religious fanatic, an individual, and we've repeated this numerous times, that has high levels of VMAT2. Now, this individual down here who had low levels of the VMAT2 gene, this individual would self-describe as not particularly religious. In each case, these individuals were read a religious text. This individual lit up the right middle frontal gyrus, shown here, and that's a part of the brain that's associated with theory of mind. It's a part of the brain that has to do with intents and beliefs and desires. In contrast, in marked contrast, here's an individual who would not particularly self-describe as religious, and when they're read a religious text, what you see is that this part of the brain called the anterior insula lights up. This is a part of the brain that's associated with disgust or displeasure on hearing something.
So you're suggesting I take a CT scan with me when I'm evaluating people to determine whether I put a bullet in their head?
So the data that I'm presenting here supports the concept that we're proposing, and I think that we would not propose to do CT scans or fMRIs on individuals out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East.
How would you suggest that this is going to be dispersed? The aerosol?
Well, so the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses, such as flu or rhinoviruses, and we believe that that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. Most of us, of course, have been exposed to both of those viruses, and we're quite confident that this will be a very successful approach.
This is fascinating. What's the name of this proposal?
Yeah, so the name of this project is FunVax, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
And you have a proposal already?
The proposal has just been submitted, and I think that the data that I have shown you today would support the development of this project, and we think it has great promise.
There is a message in our DNA. It exists. It's been revealed, it's been read, it's been translated, and by following the instructions left to us in some of our most ancient and cherished traditions, we can now literally read the code of life as the letters of ancient alphabets. And when we do so, our genetic code becomes words, and the words become sentences. Although you may have always sensed that we're here on purpose, and that whoever, whatever is responsible for our being here may have left something hidden for us, deep in the mystery of our lives long ago, you may be surprised at just how powerfully you're affected by the clarity of the message you're about to hear, the message that lives in every cell of your body. Well, as you can imagine, the emotional experience that goes along with researching this kind of information has had a tremendously profound and powerful effect on me personally. I've always believed that we are here on purpose, that we're an intentional species, that we're a product of an intentional creation that began long ago. And while I confess I've never fully understood the how or the why of our existence, I am convinced beyond any reasonable doubt. When I see the complexity of life, and the complexity of the DNA in our bodies, I know that we're here by design. Now, the precise details of how this is done, I've described in the book, The God Code. That's beyond the scope of everything that we're going to do here today. What I'd like for you to know is those details are available. We're going to do this at a very high level. We're going to do it very simply. All we're doing is now matching the numbers that we've converted the elements of life into to the letters of the ancient alphabets. And when we do that, the modern element hydrogen becomes the Hebrew letter Yud, or Y. The element nitrogen becomes the Hebrew letter He, or H. The element of oxygen becomes the Hebrew letter V, or Vav. The modern element carbon becomes G, or Gimel. All we've done is we've treated the modern elements as we would with gematria, and we've treated the ancient letters as we would with science. We're giving both ways of knowing the same consideration. When we do that, we can now apply these letters to the bases of our DNA, and here's what happens. Here's what happens. Every place we see a hydrogen, it becomes a Y. Every place we see a nitrogen, it becomes an H. Every place we see an oxygen, it becomes a V. Every place we see a carbon, it becomes a G. And this is for the first layer, the first level of the message in our cells. So we're converting the elements into numbers. We're converting the numbers into letters. And when we do that, the strand of DNA literally becomes different combinations of those letters for the first layer in the cells of our bodies. Different combinations of the letters YHVG. YHVG. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, the first layer, and this is the key, the first layer to the introduction in the cells of our bodies literally translates into only two words, two very powerful, very potent words. YHVG. YH literally translates into English, and you already know this because we spoke about it, it's the ancient name of God, or the word eternal. YH, Yah, translates to the word God, eternal. VG, or VG, GV in the Hebrew traditions, translates literally into the words within the body. Within the body. When you put these together, what we find is that the first layer of the message in the cells of all life, the first layer of the message in the cells of your body literally translates into the English words, God eternal within the body. The odds of randomly forming this kind of information, a meaningful four-letter word from the alphabets, the Hebrew language, is about 0.00042%, or about 1 in 234,256. I asked myself this question because we all know if you take enough letters, different combinations from a phone book or War and Peace or the Da Vinci Code, the book of your choice, eventually you're going to get letters that fall together and mean something. So what are the chances that this is a fluke? What are the chances that these letters just happen to be, the four elements of life just happen to be exactly the numbers that link to the four letters in the Hebrew alphabet that just happen to say exactly God eternal within the body? The odds of that happening are about 1 in 234,256.
All rights reserved. We reserve all rights. COVID-19 virology fraud explained in 19 minutes. This is a strawberry. As an organism, it is made up of millions of tiny cells, proteins, tissues, and genetic materials that make up the organism as a whole, called a strawberry. Metaphorically, it can also represent a single human cell. When slit open, we can see all of the proteins, microbes, and parts within the cell that make up the entire cell as a whole. This particular strawberry is already dying because it has been picked from the nourishing vine that supplies it its life-giving oxygen, water, and minerals from the soil below. The only reason it is still alive is because it is surviving on the last oxygen, water, and minerals that its vine gave it before it was picked. Its days are numbered. The average adult human loses between 50 and 70 billion cells each day due to apoptosis, meaning the natural programmed death of old cells, plus millions of dying bacteria and microbes, and in the case of physical injury or a poisonous, acidic blood pH from stress, worry, poor diet, lack of oxygen, and environmental toxins, billions more cells can die from necrosis, or unnatural traumatic cell death. Our body's bacteria and microzyma eat all of this dead cell debris, and the body expels whatever they don't eat through the various excretory organs. Germs and bacteria are dead cell debris eaters. Viruses are nothing more than dead cell debris. Virologists observed in the late 1960s that when certain cells die either naturally or by being poisoned in a petri dish, the surface proteins morph into spike proteins, which they call virions, and the bulbous surface reminded them of the sun's solar corona or halo. So they named this a coronavirus, from the Latin corona, meaning crown or wreath. This is a cell. This is dead cell debris, or a virus. Cell, virus. This virus did not kill this cell. It was already dying of necrosis from the moment it was picked from the nourishing vine, and my fist gave it the finishing blow. This virus is neither harmful nor contagious. It is simply dead cell debris. Now, the internal bacteria inside of the cell start to grow and eat the dead cell debris. They do not come from the atmosphere. They come from inside of the dying cell. Germs, dead cell debris eaters. Just like the virus, these bacteria did not kill these strawberries and are not killing them right now. They were dying from the moment they were picked from the vine in both of these cases, and my fist finished the job in the case of the jelly virus on the right. Just like this bird did not kill this roadkill, the car that ran it over killed it. The bird is the metaphorical germ, eating the dead cell debris. Unfortunately, the early pioneers of virology like Virchow, Pasteur, Crook, and later Enders noticed that they always found these bacteria and germs in the tissue samples of people who had died or suffered from a disease, and they just assumed they must have been the cause of the disease, since they were always there. They didn't yet notice the bacteria were coming from inside the dying cells themselves. No different than noticing the rooster crows just before the sun rises, and assuming that rooster crowing must cause the sun to rise. The bogus germ theory of disease was born, and soon a multi-billion-dollar-a-year pharmaceutical industry arose, selling people endless snake oil, cold and flu medications, antibiotics, vaccinations, and surgical procedures to remove excretory organs, in the name of protecting us from these harmless germs. Some virologists are brainwashed in their allopathic medical schools and just not clever people. Others know the truth and are just plain frauds, living off the cash cow. But here's what they are doing in a nutshell. They take a sample of sputum or snot, which is nothing more than the dead rotting flesh or cellular debris from the billions of human and bacteria cells that die every day inside our bodies and are being excreted by the lungs, as well as the other excretory organs, which is why we find the different viruses in the different excretory organs, like this smashed strawberry virus. Then they mix those cells in a petri dish tissue culture, with the sick, dying flesh and cells of monkey kidney tissue. Like this dying pineapple. And then add some other sick tissue, like cancerous alveolar A549 cells from human lungs with cancer. Then they add dying cells from sick calf and bovine. Just like this dying lettuce. And so, you're left with this genetic soup blend of all sorts of dying cellular debris and genetic material from various sources. Then, virologists starve that soup of random genetic human, bacterial, cow, monkey kidney, and lung cancer cells and tissue of all nutrients to kill and deteriorate them even faster, just like picking the strawberry off of its nourishing vine. And they poison it with known tissue-killing and deteriorating substances like gentamicin and amphotericin. And lo and behold, as the nutrient starvation and poisons deteriorate the cells, the internal bacteria arise to eat the debris, and the cell proteins dissolve into spike proteins with the corona crown-looking bubbles, and virologists say, "Oh my God, there it is, the virus. We can see it now." Virologists never see these spike proteins before they starve and poison the cells. So sometimes they even add a protein-dissolving enzyme, like trypsin, which doesn't dissolve the cell's protein coating evenly, and thus leaves the appearance of spike proteins. Just like this artist can't chisel this piece of wood evenly all at one time. So there they are, plain as day under the microscope, spike proteins. This piece of wood must be a coronavirus. Virologists claim that the full genome sequence for one of these alleged viruses should be 30,000 nucleotide base pairs long. But how would they know? They have never once taken a snot sample, isolated a full genomic virus organism from it, nor have they ever done that by taking their usual genetic soup mix of human snot, monkey, cow, and lung cancer tissue that they've poisoned with enzymes and chemicals and isolated an actual virus organism out of that with a full 30,000 base pair sequence. Because they can't. Because there is no virus organism to isolate. A virus is just broken down partial fragments of cellular genetic material. Virus, dead cell debris. As virologist Stefan Lanka points out, when cells die, they are broken down into submicroscopic particles, some of which virologists arbitrarily, meaning for no scientific reason, label viruses. Dying cell, submicroscopic dead cell debris. Cell, submicroscopic dead cell debris. Since there is no 30,000 base pair long virus organism in broken down cellular subatomic particle debris, they have to design a fraudulent PCR test that is not looking for any such thing in your snot sample, but rather smaller broken down genetic fragment primer sequences of 18 to 300 base pairs long out of 30,000 that are found in nearly anything and everything, like 90 known human genetic sequences and 92 known animal and bacterial genetic sequences, which is why we see COVID-19 positive tests on kiwis, goats, birds, Coca-Cola, papaya, durians, apple juice, motor oil, Spanish river water, blueberries, and now tap water right out of the bathroom sink. Geneticists and bacteriologists both use the Sanger and Maxam Gilbert methods to isolate other smaller than cell-sized microparticles in organisms like bacteriophages, bacteria, and even tiny little exosomes to map out their entire full genetic sequences. But since viruses are fictional make-believe organisms, virologists have to invent a make-believe full genome in a computer, which they call an in silico genome, like this paper, in silico-based whole genome phylogenetic analysis of SARS-CoV-2. In silico means in a computer simulation, virtual reality, fabricated, make-believe, fictional, completely made up, or simply imaginary. You'd be understandably frightened if fireologists told you an in silico fire was raging down your street and heading towards your house, until you go outside and see there is no fire, because it is an imaginary, computer-simulated in silico fire. Just like COVID-19 is an in silico virus. Virologists took the genetic snot soup sample from a sick person in a Wuhan, China hospital with atypical pneumonia. They built an in silico COVID-19 virus genome in their computer using the BLAST tool, mixing the previously in silico made imaginary sequences of SARS, Wuhan Hu1, and bat coronavirus RATG13, and then they told the computer to rearrange that sick person's genetic snot soup sample until it matched the new SARS-CoV-2 sequence their computer made up. If you wanted to, you could tell the BLAST tool to put in the genetic sequence of a banana, and the computer would rearrange anybody's genetic snot soup fragments until they matched a full banana genome. Since no two people on Earth have the same exact genetic fragments floating around in their snot, every time you tell the computer to rearrange someone's snot into the made-up in silico COVID-19 genome template, the computer will have to do it slightly differently than the original Wuhan person, making errors and having to fill in the blanks along the way. And they call this virus mutations, showing us brainwashed imbeciles wearing hazmat suits to protect them from an in silico computer glitch, variations or mutated strains, and scare you into taking endless injections each year to protect you from the newest deadly make-believe in silico mutation. Selling people fire insurance for make-believe fires. Ask yourself this: would you inject yourself with your grandma's old rotting kidney tissue to make you immune from catching her old age? Would you inject yourself with a teenager's pus-filled acne to make you immune from catching his acne? Then why would you inject yourself with chemically poisoned, rotting flesh from sick, dying monkey kidneys and sick cows, as well as somebody's lung cancer cells, to make you immune from poisoning your own cells to death through your own lifestyle choices, diet, stressful mindset, and environmental toxins? Because that injection is exactly what a vaccine is. But you have a live virus vaccine, you say. Sure, viruses are dead cell debris, not living cell debris. So not only did they inject you with starved and poisoned to death rotting human cancer cells, dead rotting cow cells, and dead rotting chimpanzee kidney cells, like this AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine insert shows, but they also mixed that dead rotting flesh with the dying but still slightly alive tissue of a genetically modified human fetus's embryonic kidney tissue, And now you have a live virus in you as well. Why not just cut out the middleman and start eating dead babies for health? Now, some people might be appalled by that statement, yet remarkably are not appalled by walking out of a clinic with a sticker on their shirt that proudly says, "I just injected aborted fetal kidney tissue into my bloodstream for no beneficial reason." What's the difference? As Dr. Tom Collins says, instead of discussing how dangerous and ineffective vaccines are, we need to discuss how bacteria and viruses have never been proven to cause any disease. And as virologist Stefan Lanka says, anyone who closely analyzes what virologists actually do in the laboratory to prove that these particles they call viruses cause disease will easily see the absurdity of their conclusions. And here's what the general public is not being told. The New York State Health Department did an elaborate polio study and did not nor could not make even just one person or animal sick by either close contact with polio sufferers or injection of their mucus. The United States Public Health Service did the same extensive experiments and also could not successfully make even one person sick. Other experiments done at the time swabbed the mouths and throats of prisoners and orphans with the mucus of people sick with polio and could not make a single person sick. All three extensive studies concluded polio was not contagious. During the 1918 Spanish flu, Dr. Milton Rosenau and the U.S. Public Health Service tried close contact, breathing, intimate contact, casual contact, injection of mucus into the bloodstream, and even rubbing swabs from sick people directly into the eyes of hundreds of healthy people. In not one instance could they even make just one person sick. The Spanish flu was also not contagious. They even tried it with horses and could not make one single horse sick. You can learn about the real causes of that pandemic in the last 20 minutes of the film Biochemistry Debunks Corona. Dr. Fraser of Canada and Dr. Powell of California have experimented with billions of germs, bacteria, and all varieties, but they have been unable to produce a single disease by the introduction of germs into human subjects. Not one. Dr. Waite tried for years to prove the germ theory, but could not do so. Germs are neither harmful nor contagious. From 1933 to the present day, virologists have been unable to present any experimental study proving that influenza spreads through normal contact between people, even injection. All attempts to do so have met with failure. That is why they have to call it germ theory and cannot call it germ fact. You are now immune forever from COVID-19 and all other contagious viruses because you cannot...
There's a YouTuber that I just found out about, and the name of his channel is OttTV. O-T as in Thomas, T as in Thomas, TV.